Station 8. Early in the morning, Jesus came again to the temple. All the people came to him, and he sat down and taught them. The scribes and the Pharisees brought a woman who had been caught in adultery, and placing her in the midst, they said to him, "Teacher, this woman has been caught in the act of adultery. Now in the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. So what do you say?"
I didn't mean things to go that far, to get that out of hand. It just sort of happened. I mean, sometimes a woman has needs too, you know. And Ted was always working nights. Was just exhausted. And even before that, he'd just sort of gone off it. I was feeling neglected. Just a domestic drudge, a servant. Someone to wash dishes, look after kids, get Teddy's tea on time. I hated my life. I used to like going out when I was younger. Used to get a lot of admiration from the boys back then. They'd wolf whistle, call me sweetheart. Of course, I knew how to look after myself. I'd give back as good as I got. But it's nice sometimes to have attention and know someone thinks you're pretty. Ted's a good man. He always provided well for me and the kids. There was always enough food, rent paid on time, repairs done well. But sometimes I wanted more. And when Terry came along, I was sort of bowled over. He was my dad's accountant and a rabbi. A bit older than me, but really handsome. He looked a bit like Johnny Depp. He'd give me advice about my hairdressing business, how to maximise profits, get more customers, that sort of thing. He always bought me flowers. "Beautiful flowers for a beautiful lady," he'd say. And I'd laugh. But sometimes he'd look me deeply in the eyes, and I knew what he wanted. Knew what I wanted too. I wanted something of the old days, the old me. Before all this safe conformity and motherhood came along, I was safe with Ted, could go on living with him until they finally buried me at the age of 90 in sheer boredom. But with Terry, I could feel the fires, sense the passion. Of course, I tried to pass it all off as a joke. I could never really do that, could I? I'd be jeopardising everything. I could get into really serious trouble. I could be killed. But as I said, like everyone else, I have needs. And he'd told me his wife didn't love him anymore, wouldn't listen to him, wasn't interested in him. I felt sorry for him. The old cow at the house on the corner tipped them off. Ted was away on a business trip and she'd been watching through her lace curtains. Rough hands grabbed me. There were loads of them, dressed in black with blank, pious faces. And it was me they accused, never mind the man. Where was he in all of this? Oh, I'll tell you where he was. He'd done a bunk. Yeah, right out of a second-floor window at the first sign of trouble. So much for Johnny Bloomin' Depp. He was quite happy to let me face the music on my own. It takes two to tango, you know. But not in their book, it seems. Well, they dragged me along the hard ground, barely let me get a chance to cover myself. Right through the marketplace, and they flung me down at the feet of that teacher, Jesus. Why did they take me to him? Well, I'll realise later what they were doing. You see, according to the law, I had committed a capital offence. For what I had done, they could stone me. And you could see that was what they wanted to do. Pious, religious men, never a bad thought in their heads, never an instance of desire or lust. They wanted Jesus to say, "Stone her." He was preaching a religion of love, a God of love. He was saying, turn the other cheek. But if he told them to stone me, he'd be discredited. He'd be a hypocrite. That would be the end of his mission. But if he told them to let me go, then they could say he was a dangerous heretic who didn't obey the law of Moses. Again he'd be discredited and liable to be stoned himself. They thought they had him trapped. But he was far too clever. He knew what they were really up to, what they were thinking. So what did he do? He wrote in the sand. That's right, just wrote in the sand. And he wrote weird things. Single words. Blasphemy, lust, sloth, covetousness, fornication, desire, lying, theft, gossip, slander, and worse. And then he looked at them with those piercing eyes of his, eyes like X-rays, and the men just sort of melted. And then I suddenly understood. When he wrote those things on the sand, he forced them to look at themselves. I mean, really look inside at their own hearts. And when they did, all of them realised that they should be kneeling in the sand where I was, surrounded by their jeering faces. Some of the stuff they'd done was far, far worse than anything I'd ever done. All they wanted to do then was to get far away and hide. He looked at them and said, "The man standing here who's never sinned is welcome to throw the first stone." They'd judged themselves, and they knew there'd be no stoning that day. They were so full of sin that all they could do was walk away very quickly. Whited sepulchres, he called them. All beautiful and clean on the outside, yet full of muck and rotten bones inside. They'd tried to trap him that day, and they'd ended up making complete fools of themselves. Some of them never really recovered. Some of them lost their jobs. I heard a few of them got an even rougher time from the people they'd been lording it over and criticising all this while. Well, when they'd all gone, he looked at me. But now his eyes were full of kindness. He helped me to my feet and helped me rearrange my tunic. "You've been a silly girl," he said sternly. And then he added, "But where are all these important religious leaders who are so anxious to stone you? Where have they gone? Is there no one here to condemn you?" "No, Lord," I replied. "There's no one." "Well then," he said, "I don't condemn you either. Go and don't do it again." What did I do? The only thing I could do. I couldn't go back home, could I? So I followed him. My mum helped me with the kids, and I could cut hair wherever I was. My money helped to support the mission. I was there with him on that awful day, standing by the cross with the other women, the day the sky turned black. In the end, it was only us women who did stand by him. Men, in my experience, just seemed to run away. You ask me who he was? I'll tell you. He was the man who not only saved my life, but my soul as well. He didn't want anything from me. He wasn't trying to trick me with smooth words and false promises. He wasn't like the others. Everything he said was reliable. Everything was true. He was the best man I ever met. His love and acceptance gave me a new start, a new pathway. My life changed forever that day.